Hey guys, my name is Jordan. I'm excited to be sharing with you today. We here at HSM, we are going through a series on the book of Proverbs. It's a wonderful book, huge amount of wisdom. We're going through it, but we really encourage you to go through it yourself. And what we're doing in this month of May is one proverb a day, because there's 31 days in May, and there's also 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs. So we really encourage you to do that. But let's just get right into today's message. I'm excited because we're going to talk about planning. And that might not be exciting for you as a high school student, because I kind of feel like you're expected in these 4 years of high school to have like so much planned out. You're expected to like have, what major, what school you're going to go to, and pretty much everything in your whole life planned out. It sometimes feels like that. But I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm actually going to kind of zoom in a little bit about planning, about decision making. And I'm going to talk about this one idea that I think that often people kind of make a mistake when they make decisions. And for you, I just want you to think about, how do you make decisions? Like, what does that process look like to you? For me, I tend to I'm not really good at, first off, taking advice, or seeking it out. I'm very introverted in the sense of how I recharge, but also it's hard for me to ask people for help. And I've learned that over the years, and thankfully, when you have identified a problem, you can actually work on it. And I've been working on it in it feels like the last 10 years. And I've gotten better, but it's hard. And sometimes when I make decisions, I kind of get cooped up in the moment, especially when gadgets or electronics or whatever. Something might look really cool in the moment, and I think, hey, that's what I got to get. This is going to change how I do filmmaking or whatever. And it's later, I just never use it. But how do you make decisions? You might be someone that really finds it easy to ask for advice, or maybe you are really slow and methodical when you make decisions. But today we're going to be talking about a failure that we often make. We both do when we make decisions. It's going to be about how sometimes that when we make decisions, we base them on our appearances. And let's just go to the text, because it's going to really help us to dig into it. The text that we're going to go through today is going to be Proverbs chapter 16. The overall passage is Proverbs 16 verses 1 through 9, and we're going to hit up on about 4 of those verses. So let's just get right into it. Verse 1, the plans of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirit. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. We jump to verse 8. Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. The heart of a man plans his ways, but the Lord establishes his steps. In this small passage, we get a lot of information about decision making. And today, we're not going to talk about all that, but we're going to talk about one idea, and it's about making decisions based on our vision of it, on our own appearance of how things look. Verse 2 says, all the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirit. We get from this passage the fact that certain people just make decisions based on how things look or how they feel about it. And I think for us, it's pretty often in our world, people will say, hey, the big thing in their life that they live by is do what makes them happy. They live by how things feel. If it felt right, if it feels right, they go with that. And I'm not naive to think that kind of thinking isn't always terrible. I think, hey, what we're going to eat tonight. Let's think about what feels right. That's fine. That's a small little decision. But I think bigger decisions, if we just think what's going to do right, what feels right, and what makes us happy, we're going to make bad decisions. And for me, one kind of funny way that I see this play out in my own life is that I have another Instagram, and I just post up weird photos, funny photos, or just any kind of thing that I feel God put on my heart, even Christian-wise. But it's funny because last week I posted up a photo, and it was a funny thing about, this, how I said something along the lines of 5 years ago, remember when girls would have their tongue stick out and everyone thought it was cool? Neither do I. It was terrible then, it's terrible now. It was just a stupid, sarcastic joke. And it got over 800 likes. But also, if you're going to get 800 likes, you're going to get some people who don't like it. And I had some people who kind of went in on me and say, hey, this isn't appropriate or whatever. And I honestly, in the moment, what felt right, and maybe you can relate with Instagram comments or little things on the internet, I just wanted to go in. I wanted to fire it up. I wanted to preheat the oven to 350 and just go in. But the fact is I would regret that. I don't want to be a person who just tears people down or tries to be witty in some demeaning way. So I didn't, and I'm happy I didn't. But like in that moment, what felt right wasn't what was right. And I'm sure you can relate. Maybe like just hanging out with your friends, you know, you make decisions with your friends that you think back later, like, I shouldn't have done that. But maybe you're pressured into do it or whatever. Or maybe hanging out with someone or texting someone that you want to date, and you're like, why did I do that? Like you sent a photo or you said something that you shouldn't have said. And we all can relate, because in the moment it felt right, after the moment it's not right. And we've all felt that. Like we've all made decisions that were like, why did we do that? But even like, it's going a lighter note, like sometimes it's even funny to look at photos of ourselves as babies. Like, what was our parents thinking putting us in that? Like, what is this? Like, we looked ridiculous, but parents were like, oh, that's like kind of the thing to do then or whatever. Or maybe, you know, you might have parents that you look back on their fashion choices in high school and you're like, what were you wearing? And then you look at their hair and like, what is that? But like, they would just say, that was like the thing that was in. That was the thing to do. Like, it's fine. I mean, we look back at the decisions of our parents and we get it. Like, it's just a fashion thing. And they're shaking their head at it, but whatever. But like, the deeper thing is, like, if we live for the moment and make big decisions, not just fashion decisions or hairstyles or whatever, if we make big decisions based on the moment, we're going to be looking back at big decisions like our parents look at their old fashion decisions, like shaking their head. Because it was cool then, and it's not cool now. And if we live for the moment, I mean, we are living for something that is inherently ever changing. The moment, by definition, is short. Like, it's just, what's cool then in that moment is not cool now. You know, I think about, you know, my first introduction to social media was this thing called MySpace. It was hot then. It is not now. And Facebook used to be something really cool. Now that's just where your parents gather. And there's always new things happening, but that's fine. But when we live for the moment, things are inherently going to be always changing. And we need to make decisions based on not on the moment, but pretty much we need to think outside that moment. We need to think about, hey, let's make a decision based not on the season that we're in. Let us make the decision based on the creator of that season. We need to live not for the season, but for the creator of that season. The fact is that God is who we should make decisions based on. Because it's really cool, because you think about your parents' decisions back in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, I don't know, whenever they were alive. The fact is that what was, fashion-wise, what was hot then is not hot anymore. But the cool thing is that what God wanted then is what God wants now. And you can even go back hundreds and hundreds of years and you see what God has wanted has not changed. We get this in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8. Speaking about Jesus, it says that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's constant. You know what's not constant? This moment, because it's gone. In this short little video, there's been so many moments that have passed. But the beauty of it is that God is always present. He doesn't change. That's why the Bible talks a lot about that he's a sure and safe place, a refuge, salvation. It's not going to change. But things are going to change. Like TikTok right now, guys, in your life, it's going to die someday. Like, it's going to go away. But the beauty is that God isn't going to go away. And going back to our text, if we base our decisions like the person in verse 2, where it says, all the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirit. So we don't have to be people like this person in this verse who just make decisions based on appearances. We can be people that actually don't live for the moment. We can live for someone outside of that moment. We can live for God. And I know that, we can make mistakes and we can look back on decisions and think, what was I thinking? But I just want to say real quick that I know for a fact that everybody watching this video, even Courtney and I in this room right now, we've all made mistakes. We've all looked back on things like, oh, what was I doing? But I don't want you to think that has to define you. And I don't want you to think that, hey, the whole point of this video is to not make mistakes. The whole point of this video, if you go back to that passage, is this partnership with God. This partnership, hey, I don't want to just think things out, what looks right to me. I want to invite God into it. So you've made decisions that you're like, what was I thinking? But know that there's grace. There's so much grace that God has given us. And the beauty of it is that you can look at that same God who gives you that grace is the God who wants to partner with you. So partner with him. Don't just make decisions on your own narrow view, on this own, like even 2020, what's right in 2020. Let us zoom out and not just live for ourselves, but let us live for God. Let us make decisions based not on a trend or a fad or this moment in time that we're in. Let us live for the creator of that moment. And that's what Proverbs is trying to get at. And then Proverbs has a lot to say about so many things, and there's wisdom, and it's this idea of partnership. And we're not always wise. We're going to make mistakes, but the beauty of it is that God is always present. He's always going to give us that grace, and that's that God who wants to partner with us. So for you, as you make decisions, don't base it on how you perceive things. Base it on God, because he's outside of this time, and he's outside of our moment. And that's where true life is, guys. Thank you so much for watching this, and I look forward to seeing you soon.